Have you ever looked into someone's eyes as they spoke and felt something was off, like a shadow lurking behind their words? They smile, they explain, they say all the right things. Yet deep down your gut whispers, something isn't right. A lie is like still water covering the truth beneath. It seems clear, safe, until the first ripple disturbs its surface. Or think of a weak link in a chain, pull too hard and it snaps. No matter how carefully woven, falsehoods always leave a trace, a hesitation, a shift in tone, a script too rehearsed. As Marcus Aurelius said, the soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. A liar cannot escape their own deception forever. Their words may deceive, but their body, their actions, these remain anchored to reality. The question is, are you paying attention? Today we'll uncover the subtle but undeniable signs of deception, not with accusations or paranoia, but with quiet awareness. Stay until the end, because the last insight will change how you see truth forever. Let's begin. Number 1, inconsistent in their story. Inconsistencies in a person's story are one of the clearest indicators of deception. Truth is steady, it does not waver, nor does it shift with time. When someone speaks the truth, their story remains the same, whether they tell it today, tomorrow, or years from now. They do not need to carefully recall what they said in the past, because they are simply remembering what actually happened. Truth is effortless, a natural recollection of events as they occurred. Lies, however, are fragile. They require constant maintenance, adjustments, and careful reworking to fit a false narrative. The more details a liar adds, the harder it becomes to keep everything aligned, and this is precisely where deception unravels. The cracks in a false story begin to show in the small things. Minor contradictions, shifting details, or moments of hesitation where there should be none. Ask someone about the same event in a slightly different way and observe how they respond. Do they pause as if reconsidering their answer? Do they suddenly remember something new that wasn't mentioned before? Do their details subtly shift, first claiming they were alone, only to later mention that someone else was present? These inconsistencies are not simple lapses in memory. Rather, they are indications of a fabricated story struggling to hold its shape. The truth does not require careful construction, but lies do, and under pressure, even the most carefully crafted falsehoods begin to crumble. Marcus Aurelius once said, "Truth stands the test of time. Lies are always caught. Truth does not require embellishment or revision because it is grounded in reality." Lies, on the other hand, demand constant upkeep. They are exhausting to maintain, and the burden of carrying them eventually causes them to collapse. A person who is dishonest must continually adjust their version of events to fit new circumstances, often forgetting what they previously said. It is in these moments that deception reveals itself. I once knew a man, let's call him Eric, who worked with a colleague notorious for stretching the truth. One day, this coworker proudly claimed to have completed a major project ahead of schedule. At first, people believed him without question, but as the days passed, his story began to shift. Initially, he said he had done all the work himself. Later, he mentioned that a teammate had helped him. Soon after, when pressed on specific details, he hesitated, unsure about aspects of the project he had previously spoken about with confidence. Eventually, the truth surfaced. He had barely started the project at all. His lies, once confidently told, became impossible to maintain, and his credibility was destroyed. To recognize this kind of deception in everyday life, listen carefully, not just to the words being spoken, but to the patterns in a person's speech. If someone struggles to keep their story straight, if details shift with each retelling, take note. Truth flows naturally, while lies stumble under pressure. Pay attention to these inconsistencies, because a person who cannot stay consistent is a person who cannot be trusted. Number 2, they avoid eye contact or overcompensate. The eyes are often called the windows to the soul, but when deception is at play, those windows either shut tight or swing open too wide. When someone lies, their body often betrays them before their words do. Some avoid eye contact altogether, as if looking directly at you might expose their falsehood. Others do the opposite. They stare too intensely, trying to overcompensate, as if locking eyes will make their words more believable. But here's the truth, extremes are red flags. Whether they dodge your gaze or force unnatural eye contact, both can signal deception. A truthful person's gaze is effortless. It moves naturally, fluidly, without hesitation or calculation. But a liar, their body reacts under stress. Those who feel guilt may instinctively look away, unable to face the person they are deceiving. The more calculating type, however, will try too hard, staring without blinking as if they are performing honesty rather than embodying it. And like all performances, if you watch closely enough, the act becomes obvious. Marcus Aurelius once said, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." In other words, a person's actions and behaviors are reflections of their inner world. If someone harbors deception, it leaks through their body language. The mouth may craft a lie, but the body struggles to contain the truth. I once knew a man, let's call him Daniel, who had a coworker caught in a lie about missing a critical deadline. When confronted, this coworker wouldn't meet anyone's eyes. He looked down, fidgeted, and shifted uncomfortably as if the weight of the truth was too much to bear. But in another instance, Daniel encountered the opposite reaction. He questioned someone about an inconsistency, and this person locked eyes with him in an unblinking, rigid stare. It wasn't natural, it wasn't relaxed, it was forced, an act of control, not confidence. That's when Daniel realized, honest people don't need to prove they're telling the truth. Their body language flows without effort. Liars, however, are always working to control how they are perceived. So how do you spot this red flag? First, observe their eye behavior. Do they look away too much? Do they stare too intensely? Neither extreme is natural. Second, pay attention to the full picture. Fidgeting, stiffness, nervous gestures. Does their body language align with their gaze? And finally, trust your instincts. If something feels off, it probably is. At the end of the day, truth is effortless. Lies require performance, and when words deceive, the body often tells the truth. Number 3, their body language betrays them. Words can be rehearsed, stories can be crafted, but the body? The body tells the truth even when the mind tries to conceal it. A liar's greatest challenge isn't just fabricating a false story, it's keeping their body in check while telling it. And if you know what to look for, you can often spot deception before they even finish speaking. Here's the truth. The body reacts to stress in ways the mind can't always control. Fidgeting, excessive blinking, or unnatural stillness are all signs of internal conflict. When someone lies, their brain is under pressure, juggling fabrication, consistency, and anxiety all at once. That tension leaks out in subtle ways. Maybe they touch their face, rub their hands together, shift their weight, or blink rapidly. Others do the opposite. They become unnaturally stiff as if freezing in place will make them seem more believable. But here's the key, extremes are unnatural. A truthful person moves freely without overthinking their gestures. A liar, however, is subconsciously at war with their own body. Epictetus once said, "A man's character is not measured by his words, but by his actions." It's easy to say the right thing, but behavior, those unconscious movements, those subtle tells, exposes the truth. If someone's words say one thing, but their body says another, trust what you see, not what you hear. I once knew a man, let's call him Sam, who was confronted about breaking an agreement at work. His words were steady. He denied everything and even acted offended by the accusation. But his body betrayed him. His foot tapped relentlessly under the table. His hands rubbed together as if trying to release nervous energy. He blinked more than usual. And when asked a direct question, he scratched his neck, a classic sign of discomfort. That was all the proof his manager needed. His voice told one story, but his body told the truth. So how do you recognize this red flag? First, observe their baseline. How do they behave when relaxed? If they suddenly start fidgeting or freezing up when answering a question, something is off. Second, look for clusters of behavior. One nervous movement might mean nothing. But when you see multiple signs, darting eyes, clenched fists, rigid posture, it's a strong indication of deception. And finally, trust the body over the words. If their voice is smooth, but their gestures scream discomfort, pay attention. At the end of the day, words can be manipulated. Body language is much harder to fake. If someone's body betrays them while they're speaking, it's because deep down, their mind knows the truth. Number 4, they get defensive too quickly. Truth stands firm. It does not need anger or excuses. But a lie feels threatened the moment it is questioned. That's why one of the clearest signs of deception is an overly defensive reaction. A simple question should not feel like an attack. Honest people clarify, explain, or even laugh off a misunderstanding. Liars, however, overreact. They get irritated, angry, or even offended. And that's because, deep down, they know their story isn't solid. Here's the truth. Honest people answer directly, while liars deflect. If someone has nothing to hide, they won't lash out over a basic question. But a liar? They panic. They shift blame, turn suspicion onto you, or make you feel guilty for even asking. It's not about truth. It's about control. Marcus Aurelius once said, "The best revenge is not to be like your enemy." If someone is lying and reacting aggressively, don't let their emotions manipulate you. Stay calm. Observe. A defensive liar wants you to back off, but if you remain composed, their overreaction will expose them. I once knew a woman, let's call her Emma, who had a friend that borrowed money but never paid it back. When Emma casually asked about it, her friend snapped, "Wow, do you really not trust me?" That outburst was the answer. If she had been truthful, she could have calmly explained. Instead, she got defensive because she had no intention of paying it back. So how do you spot this red flag? Watch for an immediate overreaction. Notice if they attack instead of answering. And stay calm. At the end of the day, truth doesn't need aggression. If someone reacts too strongly to a simple question, they're not protecting their honesty. They're protecting their lie. Number 5, they give unnecessary details. Truth is simple. It doesn't need decoration, embellishment, or excess. But a lie is fragile, and the liar knows it. That's why, instead of answering a question directly, they overcompensate, filling the conversation with unnecessary backstories, pointless explanations, and irrelevant details. It's their way of making the lie seem more believable. But in reality, the more they talk, the more suspicious they become. Here's the truth. Honest people don't feel the need to convince you. They state the facts and move on. A liar, however, fears their story won't hold up under scrutiny, so they flood their response with extra details. What color their shirt was, how long the drive took, what song was playing on the radio. The problem? The more details they invent, the harder it is to keep their story straight, and sooner or later, they slip up. Seneca once said, "Anything unnecessary is a burden to the mind." A liar's mind is overloaded, not just with the lie itself, but with all the extra decorations they've added to make it sound real. And because their story is unnaturally complex, it becomes difficult to remember. I once knew a man, let's call him David, who suspected a friend of lying about why he missed an important meeting. When asked, the friend immediately launched into an elaborate explanation. "Oh man, I was on my way, but then I got stuck behind this red truck. No, wait, it was blue. Anyway, the driver looked super angry, like he was having a bad day. Then I realized I forgot my laptop, so I had to turn back, and right as I pulled in, my neighbor's dog ran into the street." The story kept going, drowning in unnecessary details, and David knew instantly his friend was lying. A week later, when David casually brought it up again, small details had changed. Because when a story is fabricated, it's nearly impossible to remember all the extra embellishments. So how do you recognize this red flag? First, listen for excessive details. Truthful people stick to what's necessary. Liars add information that no one even asked for. Second, test their story later. A real story remains consistent, while a fake one crumbles under pressure. And finally, trust your instincts. If a story feels too perfect, too rehearsed, or overloaded with unnecessary details, it's probably a lie. At the end of the day, truth doesn't need embellishment. It stands on its own. If someone is talking too much, adding irrelevant details, and trying too hard to sound convincing, it's not because they remember so well, it's because they're making it up. Number 6, their words and tone don't match. A lie is more than just false words. It's an act. And while words can be carefully chosen, tone is much harder to control. A liar may try to sound confident, but their voice betrays them. Maybe they force a laugh, hesitate before answering, or their tone wavers ever so slightly. These small inconsistencies reveal something crucial. Their own body doesn't believe what they're saying. Here's the truth. Words can be rehearsed, but tone is instinctive. A liar might craft the perfect response, but their voice will often tell another story. A forced smile while saying, "I swear I'm telling the truth," feels unnatural. A hesitant, yeah, of course," when asked a simple question, sounds off. Why? Because deep down, they don't even trust their own words. Epictetus once said, "He who does not trust himself cannot be trusted by others." A liar fights an internal battle between deception and doubt. They may say the right thing, but if they don't fully believe it, their tone, hesitations, and forced cheerfulness will expose them before the facts do. I once knew a woman, let's call her Olivia, who suspected a friend of lying about canceling plans. When she asked, the friend replied, "Oh yeah, something came up, but we'll totally reschedule soon." The words were fine, but the hesitation, the fake enthusiasm, and the unnatural pauses felt wrong. And sure enough, Olivia later found out the friend had never intended to reschedule. The lie was exposed before the truth even surfaced. So how do you catch this red flag? First, listen beyond the words. Pay attention to their tone, energy, and hesitations. If it feels forced, there's a reason. Second, compare their usual speech pattern. If someone who's normally confident suddenly sounds unsure or overly rehearsed, something is off. And finally, trust your instincts. If their words say one thing, but their tone says another, believe the tone. At the end of the day, truth flows naturally. Deception takes effort. If someone's words don't match their tone, it's not just nerves, it's a sign they know they're not being honest. Number 7, they shift the blame or change the subject. A liar's greatest fear is accountability. When confronted, they don't explain, they evade. Instead of answering a simple question, they deflect, dodge, or point fingers. They might say, "Why are you even asking me this?" Or, "Well, if you hadn't done that, I wouldn't have had to lie." And if that fails, they'll change the subject entirely, hoping you won't notice. Here's the truth. Honesty doesn't need distractions. A truthful person answers directly, without the need for excuses. But a liar, under pressure, panics. They blame circumstances, other people, or sheer bad luck. Anything to avoid owning up to their actions. Instead of facing the truth, they rewrite the story to cast themselves as the victim. Seneca once said, "A dishonest man always blames circumstances, never himself." This is the essence of deception. Honest people take responsibility. They admit when they're wrong and accept the consequences. But liars, they twist reality, hoping to escape judgment. I once knew a man, let's call him Ryan, who caught a coworker lying about missing a deadline. When Ryan asked, the coworker instantly responded, "Well, nobody reminded me." When Ryan pointed out that reminders weren't necessary, the excuse changed. "Why are you so focused on me? What about the others?" Instead of owning the mistake, he dodged responsibility and shifted blame. And that was all the confirmation Ryan needed. This wasn't forgetfulness, it was a lie wrapped in excuses. So how do you recognize this red flag? First, ask direct questions. Truthful people answer, while liars look for an escape. Second, watch for deflections. If someone avoids the issue or shifts blame, something is off. And finally, don't let them control the conversation. If they try to change the subject, bring it back to the original point. At the end of the day, truth doesn't need excuses. If someone is constantly dodging responsibility, it's not because they're misunderstood, it's because they're avoiding the truth. Number 8, they keep repeating the same phrases. A lie is fragile. It must be reinforced, repeated, and rehearsed to survive. That's why one of the subtlest yet most revealing signs of deception is repetition. When someone is telling the truth, their words flow naturally. They recall events as they happened, without effort. But a liar clings to scripted phrases, afraid that if they stray too far, their story will collapse. Here's the truth. Honest people speak freely, while liars stick to rehearsed lines. Their biggest fear is slipping up, so instead of responding naturally, they repeat the same words over and over, as if saying it enough times will make it true. They might insist, "I swear I had nothing to do with it," multiple times, even when no one is pressing them. Or they'll rigidly declare, "That's exactly how it happened," as if trying to convince themselves as much as they're trying to convince you. Epictetus once said, "Words should be weighed, not counted." Truth carries its own weight. It does not need repetition. Liars, however, rely on quantity over quality. They think the more they say something, the more believable it becomes. But in reality, excessive repetition only makes them more suspicious. I once knew a woman, let's call her Emily, who suspected a friend of lying about missing an important event. When she casually asked about it, the friend immediately started repeating, "I got stuck in traffic. I told you, I got stuck in traffic. That's why I was late. I was stuck in traffic." The phrase kept coming up, even when Emily wasn't questioning it, and that's when she knew. A truthful person wouldn't need to force the same line over and over. So how do you recognize this red flag? First, pay attention to repeated phrases. If someone keeps using the exact same wording, almost like a script, they're likely overcompensating. Second, interrupt their pattern. Ask an unexpected question. Liars avoid improvisation. And finally, trust the natural flow of conversation. When someone repeats themselves unnecessarily, it's because they fear the truth won't hold up on its own. Truth stands firm. Like subscribe and comment. Truth prevails. Stay aware.